All right, welcome to the Bacon Bibles and Barbells podcast. I'm Coach Justin, joined today by Mr. Edwin Koehler. You've been working with us for, I think, about a year at this point. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it'd be a year this August.
Okay, yep. So about 10 months. And so we do an internal live Q&A and record them and everything for people that are clients of High Calling Fitness. And I didn't know about this story that we're going to get into in a little while here. But we were just kind of talking after the Q&A, everybody had left and we weren't recording anymore. And Edwin told me just one of the coolest stories about just how God had blessed him and his wife early on, and what I would consider to probably be a miracle in their lives. But before we kind of go into that, Edwin, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the missions work you and your wife does, and to kind of introduce a little bit? Your wife, Tamra, is deaf, and she was born deaf. She's never been able to hear. Is that correct?
Oh, no, she was actually born hearing. It was at a year old that she contracted meningitis. And between the disease and the medication available at the time, she lost all of the cochlear inside of her ear.
Okay.
She lost all the cochlear inside of her ear, which took away her hearing. So, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so maybe so you guys go on a handful of missions trips a year, it seems like. And what are you guys usually doing when you go overseas specifically?
So this last trip that we went to Tanzania, to the Arusha district, to work amongst the Maasai up there in the Simanjiro province and Arusha province. And while there, I was working and serving the hearing community, and she and another lady were serving the deaf members of the community there in Maasai land. And it was a simple evangelism on the deaf side. But before they could get into the true work of evangelism, I mean, there's a real language bridge to get over, because sign language is not universal the world over. And moreover, when you get into rural, undeveloped parts of the world, many times deaf individuals rarely ever get a community language. They often only have a home language that they develop between them and their parent. They're not very exposed to the world. As you get closer and closer to the larger cities, the opportunities increase and language increases. But when you're out in the very rural parts of Maasai land, we're talking about the Serengeti. Okay. We're talking about people who have been walking 26 miles a day for 3,000 years, leading their cattle to water, to graze and come back. The ladies have been walking, upwards of 30 miles a day just to gather water every day, clean drinking water for their family.
Yeah.
And so, there's often not a lot of opportunity for them to gather a common or a community level sign language, and it really just becomes a little more than gestures. And when you think about all the things that we learn through language, through spoken language, I mean, God had to speak revelation to us, through his prophets, and through, his word, his Bible, his scriptures. He had to speak to us in order to reveal certain things. There are certain things that we can see looking in the world around us, but then when you think about what you can't see that you've learned because somebody told you, none of that happens with someone who doesn't have a language. And oftentimes, if they don't get language in childhood, they never get language, and it becomes a very rough life for them. So she worked with a lot of ladies who basically weren't little more than village servants. Some of them even trafficked to some point, but and taking advantage of at that level. Just trying to using pictures and because she understands how a deaf mind thinks, because she has no sound memory. She understands how a deaf mind thinks. She is able to walk across that bridge much easier than you or I could.
Yeah, this is something that I don't think, most of us appreciate. I know I don't. The way that we perceive the world around us is, we think in pictures, right? We all do. But I think how we comprehend those pictures and how we have abstract thought, it's in a language. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
it has to have something, some means of expression. And someone who doesn't have those speech centers developed at really early age, because it's a short window, it's under 5 years old, isn't it, typically?
Language acquisition happens very easily, younger than 5, and pre-adolescent, it can still happen. And we still teach language in high school and in college because the brain can learn new languages. But when it comes to your first language and your heart language, that happens in your first 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So I imagine that for these populations, it must be very challenging for them to understand certain concepts because they haven't had categories for how to even comprehend these thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and so when you tell the gospel, you're telling a story, but there's also a lot of other comprehension around that. This is a super open-ended question, but how in the world does that work when you've got someone that, basically has a extremely limited vocabulary that probably doesn't really include many of the gospel concepts? How does your wife go about explaining something like that to someone like this?
Many times in the first contact situation like that with a deaf individual, a deaf person from a remote village, it's little more than planting seeds.
Mm-hmm.
The Between the pictures that she uses to address the concept of a beautiful man,
Mm-hmm.
and a perfect man, and our brokenness and our fallenness from a perfect God.
Mm-hmm.
It's really a big summary. You teach from creation, fall, promise, redemption, and consummation. It's really broken down to be that simple, and they become little more than seeds that will sit within that person and germinate as the Holy Spirit continues to do their work
Mm-hmm.
through the ongoing ministry that is happening there when we're not there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it was a short-term trip. It was 2 weeks last year, and in a short-term trip like that, you're doing little more than helping. The most you can hope to do is help the people who are already there.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did, is help the people who are already there, and adding into their scope. Would you minister to these deaf individuals? We were fortunate to partner up with 2 interpreters and teachers' aides to the deaf ladies there in the district. And we were able to give them information. They're believers themselves, and we were able to give them these materials, informations, and we have ongoing conversations with them when they come up with questions. And they continue reaching out to the young ladies. So, did I answer your question?
Yeah. I think so. I think it gives me a good picture. So I want to kind of pivot a little bit toward what's happened in your guys' lives, but to set
Mm-hmm.
some of the stage. Because this was all very new information to me, and you kind of alluded to this earlier. Sign language can tend to be, it sounds like hyper regional, and it's not like.
Yeah.
It's not like a Southern accent. It's not like a Scottish accent where it's like, oh, maybe it's hard to understand. It's
Actually,
from. Go ahead.
it's not too distinct from what you're trying to say.
Okay.
It's not. I mean, the dialects and the slang the range of dialect and slang in sign language can vary as great and be as difficult to read from one region to another within the same language group.
Mm-hmm.
There's often a time of, in the beginning of a conversation or in the first meeting, there's a time of contextualization where, if you disagree on a sign or if you pop a new sign up and they'll say, what's that? Oh, we use this, so, and sometimes the, hand shapes in sign language, can differ drastically from one end of the country to the other and have some regionality. Several years back, the TV show Bones, had
Mm-hmm.
an episode that spotlighted a library that is kept in the Smithsonian of sign language across the country. And with that library, it is possible to identify what region somebody's from when they sign,
Oh.
because it's as identifiable as a spoken language. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
and
So
it's hand shapes, positions, all those things.
and I think what people usually hear about as ASL or American Sign Language, that's
Mm-hmm.
sort of kind of like a trade language in America, if you will, like that it's generally well understood, but there are regional dialects and versions all over the country, right?
Yeah, so if you could probably think of it a little bit clearer, like there's the form of English that we learn in school, the
Mm-hmm.
proper grammar and spelling and everything, and then there's the form of English that we use in everyday life.
Yeah.
It's similar. There's a form of of ASL that is taught in schools as a foreign language, and then there's the form that gets used in everyday life amongst the deaf. Um,
Okay.
There is a formal version, high version, and there is a low version. Just like any language, where there's the book form and then there's the, practical form. So
Yeah, and so these regional dialects, if someone knows ASL and they visit a region that they're not from, and they don't know that region, would they be able to converse with people that only know that region if they're in the United States generally?
generally, yeah, ASL is
Okay.
it may look a little different, but it's not going to be a different language.
Okay.
It's going to have a grammar that's going to be similar from one end to the other. It's just going to be some hand shapes that's slightly different. Somebody might
Okay.
sign a little lower on the body than somebody else. So,
Okay. So yeah, it sounds like that initial meeting, it's kind of a little bit of syncing up as far as
mhm.
what each other's dialects kind of look like, sort of.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
deaf hellos and deaf goodbyes take forever. I mean, um, and it seems like many times when the deaf meet each other at a social gathering, something like that, they don't just say hello, they say my name and my story, and you get to hear the whole life story, where they lived, where they went to school, who they're married to, if they have any kids. And then the goodbyes seem to recap that a little bit.
Huh.
They take forever to say goodbye, for various reasons, but it is traditionally you will see that, you say goodbye and then 30 minutes later, you're still saying goodbye.
So it's, I mean, I guess one of the purposes of that is to sort of sync up and figure out what each other is going to be. I don't know what their signs are, if you will.
That, and it's, often, it's just good to see somebody who speaks my language, and I don't get to
Yeah,
talk this much a lot of times. So yeah,
yeah. It's kind of all the above. Cool. So
yeah.
let's move into you and your wife when she wasn't your wife yet. So, because okay, so at what stage of life did you meet, and how did you guys meet?
All right. So we met in '98. In '98, I was in, my junior year of college, and she was in her third or fourth year of community college, working on a dance degree.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was working on an arts degree, and we met at a church. We didn't call them life groups back then, but it was the college group, and it was essentially a life group. to use today's words. And that's where we first met, was during that. Her mother heard that I was getting an arts degree, and she was directing a evangelistic mime team back then. And an actor, the one portraying the character of Jesus in the mime that they were preparing, had dropped out at the last minute. Her mom heard that I had some theater and arts training, and so she asked if I'd be willing, and used the opportunity to set us up. She was her mom was meddling a little bit, trying to use me to get her to break up with her then boyfriend. So yeah, that's true. And I don't know how many of your viewers out there have a story like that where a meddling mom gets involved, but she saw something before we did. We met the first time we met formally. She was coming. Her mom took me to meet her. I was supposed to be going to be the first time that we meet for setting up this practice rehearsal schedule. And she come out of the dressing room area that she was using, dressed in the white mime face and everything. And she just she kind of gave me a hard look up and down, and looked at her mom. She knew what her mom was doing, and and said, "Yeah, he'll do." And we set up a schedule. Yeah. And so we set up a schedule to begin a crash course in mime. I had no experience in mime whatsoever. And so we started working on all the basics up to the script for the particular play. And the character in question was Jesus. So I was set up to play Jesus in this little skit for street evangelism.
Okay.
And in order to do this crash course, we had to communicate, and the way we communicated at that time was passing notes.
Okay.
She refused to teach me sign language. She was at a place in her life where she was fed up teaching boys sign language. So she and I would just pass notes. She would poke and prod to get me to move. I'm not generally very well coordinated for something like mime and dance, but so she had to, physically move my head a lot of times and move my body a lot of times. It's a very involved art, and so she would coach and teach me. And when she needed to communicate, she would write notes to me, or she would ask her mom to come down and interpret something. Mm-hmm. And I would likewise do the same thing, write notes. It was a very professional level of relationship at the time. But I guess, young being what young is, a little bit of a hint of something more, but she was being super loyal, and I was too busy in school to really let myself get involved with it.
Yeah.
I'd come out of a couple bad relationships, and I told God, I'm done. I don't need any more. And that Josh Harris book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, was real big and popular at the time.
Yeah.
So a little bit of the wind of that came through, and so I was like, I'm just going to kiss it all goodbye, and not going to try and get any more girls. She was in a relationship. She didn't want to, and it was a bad relationship. She didn't want to teach boys any more sign language. Her prayer was, God, if he's the one, she wasn't speaking specifically to me, but speaking of her future husband, when he's the one shows up, he's got to know sign language. I'm not teaching.
Because she'd already done that for, a few boys over the years, and probably was just tired of it.
Yeah, exactly. She was just tired of it. So
that's fair enough.
That was the first 6 months or so of our relationship. And then I had to go and disappear for a deep dive into junior year of college and finals and everything, and then also go off to a summer job. Mm-hmm. And when I came back from that summer job, she had a breakup. She was single. I dressed differently than I did before. You saw my playlist, okay, earlier today, and
Yeah.
I dressed like I took college as the opportunity to live a skater life, um, grunge, all, and so it wasn't her style. I wasn't her style.
Yeah.
But I dressed up. I showed up to her door one day and I was dressed like I was dressed for work, not like I normally dress. And she began thinking a different tune, began singing a different tune about me. But I didn't know any sign language, so she wasn't really completely willing to start anything. And so we just had an easy friendship for a few weeks, while we were hanging out with the rest of the college group and going out and having fun with the college group. It was a bunch of group dates, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had begun to suspect that she was the one for me. Just had that unction within me that
Mm-hmm.
she's the one. I had that conversation with my mom. It's like, I think I met the one. I just don't know how to speak to her.
Yeah.
We had begun having more developed conversations using the highest technology of the time, TTY devices. If you're familiar with those at all, imagine it was before the phones can do what they do now. It was basically taking the house phone, the landline, and putting the receiver on a special device that had a keyboard on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you type on that keyboard and it coded and decoded to the other device on the other end. And you were having a simple instant text message essentially.
Yeah.
That we used some voice relay interpreters a couple times. There's some interesting stories there. Oh gosh. One time she and I were having a conversation on the phone through a voice relay interpreter. I called her and the voice on the line that's reading her text, listening to me, typing to her, reading her text and talking to me was very obviously a grown black man. Just that Isaac Hayes kind of deep voice, soulful, not the voice that you want. I mean, I don't want to be listening to that deep, soulful voice when I'm talking to a girl on the, and
It was a little bit different sounding.
yeah, it's a little jarring, honestly. And I don't want anybody to hear anything that I'm not saying in that. I'm talking to this girl I'm sweet about, and I'm hearing, "Hey, baby, how you doing?" Coming back, and it's just very jarring. So I tried to ask the relay operator, "Can you get another operator, please? Can you get a lady operator, please?" And he was being super professional and doing exactly what he was trained to do, and he did not respond to me one little bit. Everything I said to him, he typed to her. She didn't quite understand what was going on, and then she realized I was trying to get a new relay operator, and so she had to type. She had to type to the relay operator who told me, "You're going to have to hang up, and they're not going to talk to you. You're going to have to hang up and call me back." And so I hung up and I called back, and fortunately, it was like shaking the dice. Out came the dice
Yeah.
that of calling in, and the bank gave me a female operator at that time. So that was and the conversation was already dead at that point, so it wasn't very long conversation
Yeah.
after that. Um, After that, she got me a TTY device, so that we could talk directly without a relay operator. It would
Nice.
just be, if you picked up the phone, if any of my roommates picked up the phone and they heard that baud rate song, um, then they knew to give it to me and I would put it on the device and start talking to her.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah, that's a fun little story we like to tell. But
And so at this
after
stage, she's got you a little bit at arm's length, though, right? Because you don't know
yeah.
sign language. You're not studying sign language.
No,
You're
I couldn't
just,
study sign language. I was a poor college student. The
yeah.
internet wasn't what it is today. I couldn't. pay someone to teach me. She wasn't going to teach me. She refused to teach me any of the words.
Men, it's time to reclaim the strength you were made for. Introducing the Crusader Transformation, a 90-day barbell challenge with a limit of 5. We'll keep this small so you can build a brotherhood with 5 like-minded fathers who value strength as much as you do. Together, we'll forge competence, discipline, and resilience. If you sign up now, it's only $800, which is 25% off the regular price. You'll train with purpose, stay accountable, and receive personalized instruction. Join the Crusader Transformation. Train for strength, lead with purpose. Sign up at crusader.fitness.
I had no opportunity to practice. I had no person to tutor. So I had no book to learn from. I was busy working and studying. And so all I could do was pray. I had a particular job that required me to drive from Charlotte to Atlanta every Sunday, and back again. So that's a good 8-9 hours on the road. And not to mention the waypoint in between where I might be waiting for 2 hours, for the cargo to come off and new cargo to come on before I head back. So, I mean, I'm not praying constantly. I don't want to sound holier than thou or anything like that, but it was a frequent prayer in those trips. God, I believe she's the one that you've given me, but I need to speak her language. Just a real heartfelt prayer, honest, earnest prayer, just saying, I got to speak her language.
Yeah.
And then, so that went on for a couple months, that summer for that job. And one night before we had a big college group meetup, I just happened to have a dream where I was signing to her. She and I were signing. I was signing to a bunch of people. And it was just a dream to me. I was like, that would be cool, if I could do that. And the next day we have a meeting with the college group. It's after worship meeting. The church had Sunday night worship, and we got together with the rest of the college group, and we're just hanging out and fellowshipping. It was the beginning of the senior year, and everybody's just having a good old time. They were sitting around in a circle. There's a lady in the group who was Tamara's interpreter and friend, and she was a friend of everybody else. But in that situation, she's a member of the group as much as anyone. She's not a professional interpreter. She just knew sign language. She kind of disappeared. She started talking to people more. She started more than she was signing for Tamra. And I saw Tamra watching everybody's lips, because she can lip read to the extent that any deaf can lip read. She had told me that in some of our conversations that lip reading at best, she can get about 30%. She's gotten really good at guessing to fill in the blanks. And so I knew that was what was going on. And she said one of the other things in our conversations that she had taught me was that there's this nod that happens, in order to feign like you understand. They got this smile and this nod that they do. You do it in any other language situation.
I was going to say, I think we do that with our own language too, anyway, sometimes.
You don't quite hear them fully. You don't quite understand the guy, and you're like, okay, yeah, hey, okay. And so it's a smile and a nod. You learn to laugh when the group laughs, to kind of feel like you fit in, look like you fit in a little bit. And I knew that's what she was doing. And my heart was breaking for her. And I looked across the circle to her and I said, hey, do you want me? And I started signing to her. Do you want me to sign for you? Do you want me to interpret what the people are saying? And she was just shocked. And she's like, sure. Yeah, go ahead. Say, throw it down the gauntlet. Go ahead. You try it. And I told her, just pick a conversation. And so she'd point over there and I'd sign what they were saying. And she'd point over there and I'd sign what they were saying and talking about. And her jaw dropped. And the interpreter's jaw dropped, and because the interpreter noticed what was going on, and they both looked at me, and there's a movie that we like to watch. It's a fairly gory movie, but still a great story called The 13th Warrior, if any of you viewers have ever seen it. But in there,
Mm-hmm.
there's a scene where the guy picks up on the language. He's an Arab from Iraq, and he's going on a journey with these Vikings in the Northlands, these Northmen who they don't speak the same language in any way whatsoever, but he's stuck on this trip with them, and he listens, he learns. And there's this point where he stands up and speaks back what they were joking and teasing him about. And he speaks up to defend his mother's honor, and everybody stops. And it was the same look. She looked at me and was just like, "Where did you learn my language?" And I realized that God had given it to me in the dream last night. Um, and I was like,
Wow.
God gave it to me in a dream last night. And that's when she knew, okay, this is the guy. She knew that, she had begun suspecting that I was the one, but she was holding me at arm's length. And
Yeah.
she said, that was when she knew that I was the one when God did that. And she uses this sign where it kind of feels like it looks like the hairs on your arm standing up.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what it felt like. Her jaw dropped and the hairs on her arm just kind of stand up, and the girl who was interpreting, she did the same thing, and that was God testifying that she and I were meant to be together.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that moment on, we've not stopped talking. I've been able to speak her language, and we've been married now for 26, going on 26 years.
Wow. So when you began signing that night, you had a fairly advanced command of sign language at that, like you just jumped in.
Yeah, I had a total command of sign language at that time. I jumped in, I was signing. Now I was signing the way she was talking. We were talking about ASL earlier. She grew up in a mainstream situation where her parents didn't want her learning ASL, so she didn't speak ASL. She spoke with ASL signs, but not ASL grammar. It was
Mm-hmm.
a form of contact language called Pidgin, that's commonly referred to as Pidgin, which
Mm-hmm.
uses half of one and half of the other, and it exists somewhere in between. So this
Yeah.
sign language that she was using had the hand shapes of ASL, um, but was matched to English grammar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As a result, it becomes a very busy sign language. It's a
Okay.
very exhausting and busy sign language. But that was the form of communication that God gave me, and she and I were speaking it fully at the time. I had full comprehension of what she was saying, and she had full comprehension of what I was saying. Um, we jokingly call it TSL, Tamara Sign Language. But about 10 years later into our marriage, um, about 10 years later into our marriage, after we'd had our third child, um, she started moving full into ASL she accepted God's calling on her life to serve as a bridge between the deaf and the hearing, and to bring the
Mm-hmm.
gospel into the deaf community, and to provide access in the hearing community for the deaf
Mm-hmm.
in hearing churches. And with when she accepted that, we started moving into ASL. And it is a very different language than English. There's a different grammar, different idiom, um,
Mm-hmm.
different sense of time in the way you speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, so for the last 15 years, we've been, she went quickly into it. I still struggle sometimes with being fully ASL. I have to sit in a room for a minute and kind of get my head in that space before I can jump into it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So you didn't just speak ASL that night. You spoke her
I spoke her
dialect,
language.
if you will,
Hmm.
which is not something that you would probably not a concept you were aware
I
of at the
wouldn't,
time.
no,
Like,
I wasn't. I didn't realize that there was a difference. but he gave me specifically her language. And he gave me full comprehension of her, and she has full comprehension of me. Um, we knew from that point on that we were meant to be together. A week later, we went on a date. Um, it was our first solo date. She was solo. She realized that what God had done, and I was happy that God did it. I took her out on a date. We went to a drive-in, not movie theater, but dinner. Like you
Mm-hmm.
drive in and park, and they serve you from the car side,
Yeah.
and then I took her home, just having conversation the whole time. No, not watching movies, not doing any of those things that people go out on do dates. We just sat and had conversation the whole time. And I took her home. I asked her to come to my sister's wedding next week. And she said, yeah, her and her mom would come. So the next week she was at my sister's wedding, got to meet my huge family of 30 cousins and all the aunts and uncles involved in that. Um, and, her mom and her were kind of a little shell shocked at it because she and her family were a family of five and all their extended family were 500 miles or more away. Um, That night, they left the wedding early after meeting all of my family. I had to stay because I was involved in the wedding.
Yeah.
I came back to her place after the wedding. This is a week after our first date, and we're sitting out on the front porch of her parents' house, just having conversation, talking more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her to marry me right there. And her jaw dropped again. She's like, is this happening? And she said yes.
That's
So
amazing.
2 weeks, one date, and I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. But then she said, but you got to get my dad's permission first because it was a little quick. I gather it was quick, and then to do it right,
Yeah.
before we announced it to everybody, I went and got her dad's blessing,
Mm-hmm.
and he gave me a hard time, but he was always going to give it to me. He's just the kind of guy who's going to give me a hard time in the process. Made me sweat it out a minute or two, and then gave me his blessing. And we made it a formal engagement a few months later with a beautiful proposal and announced it to everyone. Uh, and we got married a year after that. So one date and 2 weeks, asked her to marry me. She says yes. And then a year, 15 months later, we're married. So,
that's that's crazy. So yeah, I just the to learn the sign language that you learned overnight, I imagine
hmm
that would normally take years. That's not something
yes,
that you just crash course your way through that you could get in a week or a month or
hmm
whatever.
that's absolutely right. I mean, it was really a, Pentecostal. Now, at the time we were in a Church of God, okay, so it was truly like a day of Pentecost. As opposed to tongues of fire, as it said in the Bible, it was fingers of fire. Um, uh, and I was speaking a language that I had no previous understanding of,
Yeah.
no previous knowledge of, and I was speaking it fully and fluently, and she had uh, total comprehension and understanding, which is the point of communication and language, is that
Yeah.
that there is a total understanding and comprehension in both parties involved in communication.
Yeah.
And with her language, I was able to communicate with comprehension to other deaf that were in the church and other deaf in the area.
Yeah.
They, if, Even if somebody doesn't speak fluent ASL, they understand sign language on the English level as well. They're all
Mm-hmm.
used to it. But yeah, they understood me. I understood them. I had full comprehension. Yeah, it was a total blessing, kind of like that Matrix moment where he plugs in the cord in the back of his head and he learns how to fly a helicopter. He learns how to fly a helicopter in 10 seconds, so.
Yeah. So I like what you pointed out, that the language was comprehensible. This wasn't
hmm
babbling or anything like that. And I think the biblical examples we have, especially the commands that Paul has to the church, an interpreter would need to be present if if the tongues were
Mhm.
valid. Like that, it's when God works this way. God is not a God of chaos and
Mhm.
whatever. God is a God of order and communication, and this allowed not just two people, but primarily two people to communicate that otherwise had no real ability to do so except through note passing and things like that, which is not nearly the same, of course. So I believe this is a miracle. I think you do
It,
too. Yeah, I
yes,
mean,
absolutely.
like what else could possibly describe this? But what's so cool about the witness, I think, of it is that this is not some speaking in tongues thing or anything like that.
Mhm.
This is both parties full comprehension of everything
Mhm.
that's being said, two-way communication, and then not just with you and her, but with all the other deaf people in the church and the
Mhm.
community. And I mean, I never asked you this before. What did her mother think of all this? Because her mother knew you at least a little bit before she knew you didn't know sign language. She tried to set you guys up, but she knew you didn't know anything about this, and all of a sudden,
Oh, she's through
here
the
you
roof.
are.
She was through the roof, excited, happy about it. She's a strong believer. And she was totally ecstatic, for her daughter, for the both of us.
Yeah,
Um, she was totally ecstatic for her daughter to have a husband who completely understood her, a prospect that completely understood her. She saw it coming a mile away. She was just being patient. She was so glad to see God's plan revealed. Um, and, and joyous. So yes, she was very happy.
yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know where else to go with it. I just think it's an amazing story, and the result isn't just that you guys are married, you have children and a family, but you guys have then been able to take that and proclaim the
Hmm.
gospel where you are in other countries, and you guys have been doing so for a long time. Like this wasn't just it wasn't not to trivialize it, but this
Hmm.
wasn't only a miracle to bring you two together, but actually to sort of craft a opportunity for ministry that you guys both have shared your entire marriage.
That's right. The ministry that we've been able to do together, um, serving, serving the deaf, teaching, strong and right doctrine, to the deaf in Bible study, proclaiming the gospel, to deaf and signing, members, providing access, means of access for the deaf to churches, to good churches. There's amazing how many, cults and bad churches do sign language well, and the deaf will go where they can understand, and they
Yeah,
get misled by bad teaching. So providing access to good churches who are biblically sound, teaching right doctrine and theology about God, performing right worship, providing access to these things, has been a big part of our ministry. Is just making access, in the family unit as well, encouraging parents of deaf children to learn language.
hmm
Because many times it doesn't happen, that the parents will learn as well. And so the children often drift away, especially if they'll drift away to, it's very easy for the deaf to drift into a hard life. So,
yeah,
and they'll be hurt or scorned or lonely, but to bring them the hope of the gospel
or taken
and
advantage of, I imagine.
taken advantage of, and to bring them the hope of the gospel in community, in Christian community. I mean, this weekend we're going to go to a gathering at a park north of the city of deaf from all over the state of North Carolina and South Carolina coming into one place for a community of worship, for one
hmm
communal gathering of worship and fellowship. I mean, it's going to be a wonderful experience. And
Yeah,
it may not be standing on stages and street corners and signing to anybody coming by. Um, it's one-on-one relational ministry most of the time. Just being present, answering
yeah.
questions, being consistent.
Mm. Well, I hope this is encouraging for people to hear. When God has a plan, he will make it happen one way or the other. And he obviously has the means, but the fact that you went to sleep not knowing it's not, and this is part of what's kind of mind blowing to me because of my limited understanding of what sign language is. You didn't just wake up learning to speak Spanish, which I think would be in a way an easier transition because it's still a spoken, like you didn't have a category in your mind for how sign language works. And it is a different animal. It's a different speech medium. It's a different communication medium. It doesn't work the same. The software is different. The hardware is different. And
You're
you
using
wake up the next
eyes.
day. And so when you woke up the next day, did you know that you knew sign language?
Um, I didn't know that I knew it until we were in that circle and we were sitting around talking together. I didn't know that I knew it until then. And I was watching her and the interpreter friend communicate, and I was understanding what they said. And I was like, whoa, I know what they're saying. And I just watched for a few minutes, and then I saw the friend fade away into hearing conversations. And I saw Tamra, my heart was just breaking wide open. I saw Tamra watching eyes, watching mouths, lip reading, and doing the nod, the false nod.
Yeah.
And it felt a little rusty at first and a little slow. You want me to sign for you? And she's like, what? Because she and I had been together the day before. We'd hung out the day before, at
Yeah.
another function, at another event, and I had no idea how to talk to him. It was
Yeah.
letters. It was notes. It was, writing things down. It wasn't like speaking to your phone and it texts things out. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
Um, so the day before, 24 hours earlier, I had no comprehension, no ability to sign, not even one sign. And that night, I had the dream. And then that evening, we're together with all the friends, and I'm watching them sign, and I get it. Like, whoa, this is cool. And I start signing. I asked her, like I asked her, do you want me to sign for you? And she's like, yeah, let's see this. And I signed what they were saying, what they were saying, what they were saying, whatever she asked for. And she was just shocked and amazed. And I was ecstatic. I was happy, nervous, like I'm feeling a little bit jittery right now about talking about this. Every time I talk about this, I get a little jittery and nervous about it. So,
Did you tell her that night what had happened, like about the dream?
so yes, she asked, where did you learn it? I was like, God gave it to me in a dream last night. That was the only explanation I had. I remembered signing in the dream. I was like, God gave it to me in a dream last night. And so, that was my answer to her. God gave it to me, and it was in the dream. And she's like, that's the sign. The
Yeah.
hair stood up on her arms, and she was like, oh. So,
So when you so this is kind of two questions.
mhm.
That day, did you have like a photographic memory of the dream too? Like did you know what happened, and do you still remember the dream today, like as far as roughly what happened, or like was it just the impartation of knowledge and you generally knew that you spoke in sign
It was
language
just
during the dream?
it was just the impartation of knowledge. I knew that I was
Wow.
speaking in sign language in the dream.
Yeah.
Um, and I did not have a picture memory of everything that happened. It was just, I remembered signing in the dream last night. But as the day went on, and then when the conversation happened, I remembered God must have given it to me in that dream last night, and we were signing.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
What was
I don't know what
interesting,
else to ask. It's just amazing. Yeah, this whole
well,
thing is just. Go ahead.
there's a follow-up story. There's a follow-up story to this.
Yeah.
As in the early years of our marriage, as time went on, I started remembering a few things from before she and I met.
Hmm.
Um, I remembered in youth group. So that's 4 years before she and I met. There was a young lady in our youth group who often hopped around from youth group to youth group. Okay. And she
Hmm.
had spent a time away from our group and at another youth group where she met Tamra and
Hmm.
started learning and was impressed upon her to learn sign language. And then she came back to our youth group because we were her home, and she was talking about meeting her. She was signing a little bit, and I passed by her while she was signing with her friend, and she told me where she learned it and why she learned it. And I just remember thinking, that's kind of cool. I think I'd like to learn sign language. I remembered that event a year or two after Tamara and I had met, that had happened 4 years beforehand,
Good grief.
and it was because she had met Tamara. I
Yeah.
put two and two together that she went to the same youth group that Tamara was at, and she met Tamara there and was signing because she met Tamara, and that she was impressed with Tamara, wanted to learn sign language because of Tamara, was doing sign language in our little youth event one time. I saw her, asked her, and she's like, "Yeah, I met this girl and we signed. I'm learning it now." I remember thinking that's kind of cool, but then I also remember thinking it was just a fleeting interest of a teenage boy. It just disappeared. I didn't think about
Yeah.
it again after that until I remembered it. And then during college, before she and I met, I'd been to a handful of churches that I would not, I'm not going to speak of their names, that I would not agree with today and would not send my friends to. I would
Yeah.
actively try to get anyone I know who's going there away from there. But
Yeah.
in that church, there was and in those churches, it was a Pentecostal NAR style church. There are true believers,
Hmm.
regardless of what the church teaches. There are true believers. And there was this true believer young lady in there, mother, who saw me, worshiping at the front of the room and just came up, and I was worshiping with my hands raised. I didn't do a whole lot of ecstatic stuff. I'm a, you know, stiff white guy, I guess you might say. But, I had my hands raised and, kind of waving back and forth to the music and worshiping. And she come up behind me and said, God is going to bless people through the way your hands are moving. Okay. She was a
Yeah.
little bit, she comes across a little, of that on that spiritual side sometimes. And so I just kind of like, I didn't know how to categorize or store that. And it just kind of like Mary, it just
Yeah.
kept it in my heart. And honestly, I forgot about it for a while until 3 years after Tamara and I were married. She joined a dance troupe at that church, or that was using that church's facility to practice, and met her. And I went down for one of the performances and I got to meet the lady again. And I remembered what she said to me, that the Lord is going to bless people through your hands. And I realized she didn't know that she was talking about. I didn't know what she was talking about. But
Yeah.
there was the aha moment of those two things coming together, of time and seed planted long ago coming up. All of a sudden, I realized the ministry that Tamara and I do together, the love that Tamara and I have for each other and can communicate. That's what she was talking about. The blessing that
Hmm.
people see in our love, the blessing that people receive when the Holy Spirit ministers through us to other people around us. That's what she was talking about. And talk about a joy, a warmth of joy coming over you.
Hmm.
Um, Earlier when I spoke about this to you, I kind of alluded to all of the charismatic experiences I've been through in my past, just categorically call it that.
Yeah.
And while many of my beliefs and practices have changed in those days, I still believe that God works amazing miracles amongst believers today. I cannot call myself, maybe it's because I don't understand the word cessationist. But at the same time, I've just seen too many times with this story in my life of giving me language for my wife miraculously in the way he did, hearing stories in the mission field of Jesus coming to people in dreams and telling them to go over there and hear. I mean, they still need to hear the gospel, but go over there and listen to that guy. He's going to tell you about it, you know?
Yeah.
So there's still the means of the means of salvation still involve the preaching and the proclamation of the gospel, but in places where Jesus goes into other pastures to gather sheep of his own and to
Hmm.
gather his sheep from faraway pastures, and tells them to go over there so they can hear his gospel.
Yeah.
Um, it's truly amazing to to be in the fields that God has prepared with seeds that he planted long ago,
Yeah.
and to see those seeds sprout up into full bloom. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think the way I would describe myself, and I think this is generally compatible with cessationism, but like I would certainly say I'm not hyper cessationist. I've seen things too that
Hmm.
I know God breaks the rules of
Hmm.
the normal,
The
everyday.
normal order.
Yeah, the normal order. That's a good way to put it from time to time.
Hmm.
I fully believe that. I've seen it, not just your story. I've seen it. And the difference I would describe between, what that is and what we often see in the sort of charismatic Pentecostal movements, and what differs, I think, from the very early church is the way that God seems to tend to work, in my opinion, tends to be through spontaneous means that are not ours to command.
That's right.
In the Old Testament or the New Testament, well, the Old Testament too, but in the New Testament specifically, those sign gifts, there were people that were like, this is the prophet. This is the person that heals people. This is the person that does whatever the thing is. And it was sort of like at that time, God seemed to work through particular individuals to have specific, very, not the, I mean, spiritual gifts that were sign gifts, I think is how we describe them.
Hmm.
And I think that God still tends to do that from time to time, whether through miracles or through people, but it's not sort of like through our command. There's nobody could, I don't think we have healers today or prophets today,
Hmm.
but I think sometimes God reveals something to someone to pass along. I think that sometimes God works a miracle for an individual, and he may even do so through a person. It's just that person is not someone that can just walk into a hospital and start, putting their hands on people and heal on command.
Yep. Ephesians 2:10 talks about how we are saved for good works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good works that were prepared for us. It's like he's got all these, I don't know why I'm having a hard time coming up with the words, but he's got these things for us to do, these good works for us to do. And they vary for each person. It's not
Yeah.
like the good work. You can't say the good works are only this, that, and the other, but he's got this list of things for us to do for his purposes, for his glory.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and many times in order to accomplish that, he has to give us what we need to do it. He doesn't call you because you can do those jobs, because or because you are gifted and able to do those jobs. No, he, he's called you. He's got these prepared for you, and he gives you what you need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He has prepared for us work in the deaf and signing world, working with adoption groups, working with adoptive parents, working with, individuals, new believers, church access, and in so many different ways. And he still has much more work, as well as proclaiming his gospel in the mission field. Um,
Yeah.
it's been amazing to see what he's brought us through and given us to do, and I look forward to whatever he's got prepared for us moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
We're not able to go anywhere this year. Our kids are in a place where they're starting junior year, starting starting senior year in high school, starting senior year in college. So we're not able to get out for all of these trips this year, but I'm looking forward to going back out.
Yeah, I'm
She,
sure. Well, go ahead.
I was going to, what did you want to say? I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No. Go ahead, please.
Um, one of the things that I got to see, this is Ephesians 5, where husbands are to love their wives, as Christ loved the church, sacrificing himself,
Yeah.
even unto death, for her benefit, to minister to her and to wash her in the word. One of the blessings that I've been able to enjoy, in loving my wife in this way was because she grew up mainstream, she grew up in a hearing world, and it was a very isolating thing for her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even in the church of many well-meaning people, it's still a very lonely existence because the only way you can communicate is with the 1% of the population that can sign.
Mm-hmm.
2%, some ridiculously low portion. So most of the days she's going through without another signer to talk to other than her family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when she was in her 30s, in her early 30s, she got her first opportunity to go on a missions trip. She'd been on many missions trips with her youth group, but she was the deaf person in a hearing youth group going to hearing mission. So she was, outside looking in all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in her 30s, she got the opportunity to go with deaf people to a deaf people in another country, minister with deaf to the deaf.
Mm-hmm.
She had a great time, full immersion, totally able to participate, full participation.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until that trip in her 30s that she had her first all night girl chat. And
Wow.
I heard that story, and I tell you that I was so happy for her. The things that we take for granted and being
Mm.
able to communicate with our friends and our family. I mean, how many times do you talk? If I could encourage listeners here, don't take your communication for granted, especially with your loved ones. Stop talking to your family across the house. Stop talking to the back of your kid's head as you're both watching TV on the wall across the room.
Mm-hmm.
Make intentional face-to-face conversation. Um, we don't get the opportunity to talk across the house. We can talk across the room easily enough, but we don't get the opportunity to talk from room to room. If I
Yeah.
need something, I got to go find her. If she needs something, she's got to go find me. Actually, she can call out and I'll go and I'll answer. I'll come running, but it's a little unfair like that sometimes. But
I know. I was gonna say that's only a one way option, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
You
But
can't really get her attention.
but if I need anything, if I need her attention, if I need to tell her something, I got to go hunt her down and find her.
Yeah, you can't go walking through the house calling her name. You got to find the room and.
This story will these two stories will kind of illustrate the point. Well, first, the fun one is that in our first year of marriage, in the first couple weeks of marriage, I realized very quickly I better make sure there's enough toilet paper in the bathroom because I can't call for help to bring some.
Yeah,
So
it's just something you wouldn't necessarily think about, right?
no, exactly. Those are the things you don't think about. It's like
And you guys
this
didn't
is a
have texting
taste.
even back then, right? That was
No,
before texting was the thing.
that was before texting was a thing. So just that little funny drop there. But one time we were having dinner here at home before we had kids. She had prepared spaghetti, and she and I were having our spaghetti dinner there in the kitchen. And I had slurped my spaghetti. Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
had slurped my spaghetti as anybody and everybody does or has done. Um, and she said, "Stop! Don't do that." being a little meddling, I kind of saw the opportunity to kind of poke a little bit and have a little
Yeah.
fun. And I slurped it a little bit louder, more obviously. And she's like, "Don't do," because she was beginning to show some real concern. She was really starting to show some anxiety. And just me being the big brother kind that I am, I slurped it. I was like, "What's wrong with slurping my spaghetti?" And she's like, "Don't do that. You'll mess up your stomach." Like, who told you that that you'll mess up your stomach if you slurp your spaghetti? So she said her mom told her, "It's like, I know your mom. Your mom doesn't think like that, doesn't believe that." She said a lot of crazy things, but she doesn't think that.
Yeah.
And so I started trying to imagine that conversation happening. When she said when she was little, her mom told her, "Don't slurp spaghetti. It'll mess up your stomach." So I was thinking, okay, when you were little, your mom was still learning sign language. She wasn't very good at it. You were
Yeah.
young, so you had a limited sign language. Just explain that situation to me. Explain that conversation to me, because she has great recall. So she recalled the conversation to me, and I realized what had gone on. Her mom and her mom's poor sign language at that young age was trying to say, "Don't slurp your spaghetti. You'll mess up." She was trying to say your shirt, but it
Oh.
accidentally said stomach. And, but that stuck in Tamra, who loved her parents and obeyed her parents. So that stuck. She did not want to mess up her stomach. So from that small age of preschool all the way up until we were in our 20s at that point, she would not slurp her spaghetti because she was afraid it was going to mess up her stomach. And then I explained, I think this is what happened. You know, your mom was talking shirt, not stomach.
Yeah.
You should have seen the color fall from my wife's face. It was just the things that we take for granted in being able to have a conversation with our children and have a conversation with our parents and our friends. That was a
Yeah.
fun one. But there are just as many hard ones, hard
Yeah.
stories like that. Um, but we take for granted talking to our loved ones. Now we do it with text messages, and all of the subtext is gone, and we start
Yeah.
imagining the worst tone of a message. We put tones in there with our imagination that were not intended.
Hmm.
So don't take communication with your loved ones for granted. Put the screens down, speak face to face so that you can hear them and they can hear you. So
I think this might be a good thing to kind of camp on for a minute. It's totally not the direction I saw things going, but I do. There's a lot here. So I think that this is a particular issue because of the proliferation of messaging and
hmm
just social media and things like that. We have our friends online and everything, and you can actually cultivate fairly intimate relationships online. Um, but I think there's a shift away from intimate relationships, and then
hmm
friendships have become more and more surface level. We don't know what's really going on inside, with our friends and with our family. And I think this happens in families just as much in most cases. And and I think that the what people a lot of people express as loneliness, which is becoming more common, is just a lack of intimate friendships because we've gotten away from, we're people are, if they're talking in person, they're yelling to each other. It's just all business. And people have, by and large, I think many people have lost that ability to interact on an intimate level with another human
hmm
being. It obviously spouses, but just in general, and I've detected that I feel like COVID made it worse too. People had a year of isolation, and some people, I think, developed bad habits as a result of that. And that's not, I don't, to Christians, for me, that shouldn't be acceptable for Christians. That we're called to have, we're described as brothers and sisters in Christ. And that's a close relation. I mean, but the only thing closer is probably a spouse than your brother or your sister. And we also have that that brother and sisterly aspect between spouses. And I hope that of all the things people take away from this, like, make sure you have some circle of friends and your
Mm-hmm.
family, and you have, and what I think this takes, and this is a concept that I think is going away for people: unstructured, empty space and time to
Mm-hmm.
communicate that doesn't have an agenda. It's not, I need to talk to you about this decision we have to make or this problem we have to solve. That shouldn't be all of our interaction. There, I think you need to have that slack in your schedule, that slack in your agenda to communicate like that, because that's where the relationship stuff happens. It happens from telling stories like this. It happens from really
Mm-hmm.
explaining how you feel about things and what's really going on in your life beyond, hey, please pray for me, I'm dealing with this difficult situation. Like, yeah, that's important and that's part of it, but how much better can you pray for that person if you really understand them to a level of depth because you've sat on their back porch and had unstructured time with them?
Mm-hmm. We've lost a great sense of community in the church. Um, it's become, in many churches, have become very consumeristic. I go in, I receive, I go home.
Yeah,
We've relegated all of the ministry, of the church to the people in the front of the room, the people on the stage, to
yeah,
the select individuals. When the call in scripture for ministers, for the pastors and the elders, is to preach the word. And when in every season, when you're tired, preach the word, feed my sheep, tend my lambs, tend my sheep, so that the church can be built up unto Christ, ministering to each other, loving
hmm
each other. You can't do that if you're going in there side by side, and looking at the back of people's heads. But if you could go in there and get to know
yeah,
everyone in your church, or at least everybody in your group there, and
hmm
share life with them, share life with people who have a different lifestyle than you. There's a variety
yeah,
of okay lifestyles in the church, but share life with people so that when they have a burden, you can lift them up. And when you have a burden, they can lift you up. Don't go into this life alone.
hmm
Um, but in Christ loved the church and got to the point of death, washing her with his word, speaking the gospel unto his church, proclaiming the gospel unto his church, dying for the redemption of his church, for and giving his righteousness to his church. And when
hmm
we are in him and loving each other, it glorifies God.
hmm
And and it's just genuine, true love, sharing life together. Um, And that's what the people outside the church, he says, they'll know you are my disciples because of your love for one another. When they look in and they see this community, this relationship, it's a light on the hill, and it's
hmm
bright, and people are going to want that. Um, Sadly, we've done that poorly. And sadder still, many sects and false religions do it better than we do.
They do.
And that draws people out. But if the people see true, genuine love and relationship in a church, and we're not talking about anything spectacular. We're not talking about, spectacular all the time. This is just ordinary, everyday living life together, sharing life
Have
together,
someone over for dinner. Yeah, invite the
you
other
know,
family.
sharing a meal, sitting with the sad, sitting with the sick, dancing with the happy, and celebrating with the joyous. Just
hmm
having a good time together, living life and sharing life. Um, when a member of the church has a baby, proclaim it from the pulpit. so and so had little Susie yesterday, and let the church rejoice that this life that God has given these parents.
Yeah.
If we should do it all together, not so siloed and alone. Yeah. So preaching on another topic. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I don't see how you can. I mean, one, hospitality is mentioned in the New Testament,
Hmm.
some handful of times as actually like a gift,
Hmm.
and like and something that we should practice.
I like the
And
title of Rosario Butterfield's, one of her latest books. Is titled "The Gospel Comes with a House Key."
yeah,
You know, just that title alone is shocking to consider. Are you willing
yeah,
to share your house key as often as you share the gospel? And of course,
yeah,
there's wisdom and that we should be using, but
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's the kind of life that is expected in the church. That your home should feel welcoming to the other people you're around you, your neighbors, your church. We should be the best at hospitality.
We should be. And you can't serve people you don't know very well, and you
Hmm.
can't and you can't speak on a spiritual level to people that you don't know, that you're not acquainted with, that they're if someone's a stranger to you. How do you expect to be able to minister to them? And the other thing that I think that people don't fully grasp, until they're in that time, when you go through difficult challenges, that's not really the ideal time to be forming new relationships. But the relationships that you have and the depth that you have, that's going to really be a big a big help, if you will. That's going
Hmm.
to provide opportunity for other people that want to serve you, the ability to minister to you. But if you don't have those relationships, that can't happen.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think we can probably end it here. Thank you, Edwin, for coming
You're
on
welcome.
and speaking to this. I just think it's one of the most encouraging stories I've heard. Just
All
the
glory to God.
whole I mean, it's the whole package, the miracle itself, but then that wasn't just so that you and Tamara could get married. That was so that you guys could then go and impact other churches. Like you guys have had an international impact. You guys have helped. You guys have helped people in multiple continents at this
Hmm.
stage. You've been able to help church. I mean, like that pairing, when God brought you guys together through this miracle, it wasn't only for your family's sake, it was for the church at large. And you guys have been able to form relationships and friendships because of it.
Hmm.
You guys have been able to proclaim the gospel in ways that I doubt you ever would have imagined. At any, back then, I mean, this none of this none of this could have been on your mind. And
Mm-mm.
here's like right where God has you as part of his plan. And it sort of started with you dreamed about sign language one night,
Hmm.
and your
And
life has been changed ever since.
it's all as a result of God's provision and His blessing in our life. He gets all the glory in this.
Yes.
Like you said, I could never have imagined being in a tenth of the situations that we found ourselves um, in the ministry of God's love and grace, in the church and in the world. Um, it's truly amazing when we look back on it. I look forward to whatever He's got for us moving forward. We look forward to it together. Um, I
Yeah.
get a little restless sometimes. I say, honey, let's go do this. I want to I think I need to be doing this. And she's like, nope. So God has used kind of, if we're both on the same page, then we know that God's called us to that. And when we're there, when we operate on the same page, where two are as one, um, and we operate from that platform, I may not, we may not be standing side by side, as I'm preaching or as she's ministering. We may not be standing side by side, but we're to be in the same field and and both working at the same time in the areas that God has provided for us. when you operate inside the will of God and in his provision and you wait for him to open the doors and make the opportunity, the blessing is amazing, and he
Yeah.
gets all the glory. So I can't take
Amen.
any glory for it. He gets all the glory for it. So
Yeah. Amen. Well, for those listening, invite your fellow church members over for dinner, and then do the same with your neighbors. Give them the
yes,
gospel. I mean, that's, I think, a big takeaway. And just know that sometimes God just says it's time to bend the normal rules a little bit, because he has means to work through, and he has his chosen people, and he will do what he wants. And this is
that's right.
all in his control.
Psalm 115 says that the people may scoff and say where is their God? And we know that he is ruling from heaven, doing as he pleases.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great note. So, see you guys in a couple weeks. Hopefully, we're changing cadence a little bit for the summer. So until we see y'all again, gains and grace.
All right, gains and grace.
My name is Justin Johnson with High Calling Fitness. Maybe you're tired, gaining weight, waking up with joint pain, back pain, and a body that just doesn't feel like it used to. You've tried to fix it, but nothing seems to last. What if you don't need another app or crash diet, but a real coach, someone to meet you where you're at and walk with you step by step? At High Calling Fitness, our coaching comes to you wherever you are. No matter where you live, small town or city, across the country or across the world, your health still matters. You don't have to go it alone. We build personalized plans based on your goals, your schedule, and your equipment, even if it's just a set of dumbbells in a small space. This isn't just training, it's a personal partnership. You'll get weekly updates, one-on-one access to your coach, and ongoing support through Zoom and Slack every step of the way. We're here to help you build strength, restore energy, and claim the life you were meant to live. Book a free consult today. Let's talk about your goals and see how we can build something better together. High Calling Fitness, built for the everyday, ready for the extraordinary.